Hey, it's Rachel Cooke, your modern mentor. I'm the founder of Lead Above Noise, a firm specializing in retaining, engaging, and developing talent. And today, we are going to talk about your talent, and specifically, why and how you've got to be talking up your amazingness, especially at this time of year. We're living in a fast-paced, 24-hour news cycle. We are overwhelmed by headlines every day. So it never fails to amaze me how much time we collectively spend marveling over the weather and the passage of time. So let me be a cliche and say, I cannot believe we are in the final quarter of 2022. But here we are, and we are barreling toward year end. Different organizations operate on different fiscal calendars, but most, in my experience, tend to use January through December to track the performance cycle. As in, it's likely your year-end performance review on the not-so-distant horizon. So, how's your performance been this year? Or more importantly, how does your boss think your performance has been this year? Because love it or hate it, and yes, it really is okay to hate it, more than your actual performance, it's your company's perception of your performance that really matters. This is what influences your compensation, your potential for promotion, your nomination to lead that project, all the things. You want to be recognized and appreciated for the great stuff you've done. But also, you don't want to be a bragger. Because, as one of my kids likes to say, no one wants to sit with a bragger at lunch. It's about striking a balance. And so here are some tips for how to get recognized when it counts the most. First, own your role as an educator. I have talked to so many people this year who have left or are considering leaving jobs because they're not feeling appreciated or seen for the hard work they've done. Feeling invisible or taken for granted at work it's kind of miserable. But let's be honest, we are all crazy busy these days, and that includes your boss. And the truth is, when we're busy, but also maybe always, we tend to notice the things that are on fire, that demand our attention. So if your work has been going well, it probably just hasn't hit your boss's radar. Yeah, they should know what you've been working on and what you've achieved, but often they just don't. This is where you come in. Creating awareness around what you've done this year and why it matters is a critical part of your job. It's not bragging unless it's only intended to make someone else feel insecure or less than. So rather than letting yourself feel unappreciated, start by seeing yourself as an educator of sorts. You're not tooting your own horn. You're teaching your boss about the value that you and your role are delivering to the organization. Feeling appreciated really begins with you. Next, connect your work to the bigger picture. Now it's time for you to sing your praises. So what do you highlight, and how do you ensure someone still wants to sit with you at lunch? The secret is this. Even though this is all about you, your job is to make it not at all about you. What you need to ask yourself is not just, what did I do this year, but what did I do this year that will matter to my leader? So think about what's on your boss's plate. What have they been working on? What is their top priority? And what challenges are they working to overcome? And then what have you done that's contributed directly to something that's popping for you? So think not just about what you did, like maybe you redesigned a merchandising plan, or you spoke at a conference, or you successfully tested a new client engagement strategy, but how did what you do support your boss and your team's priorities? Focus on how that merchandising strategy made your most profitable products more visible to customers, or how your talk at that conference attracted a new talent who filled an open role on your team. You don't need to downplay your role. You just need to upplay why and how your work moved the whole team forward. That's how you fully capture your boss's attention. Next, showcase your leadership. Companies want to reward and retain their performers, but they're also on the hunt for their future leaders. So as you describe your accomplishments, focus not on what you and you alone did in a dark room, but rather how you harness the wisdom and experience and expertise of people around you. Whether or not you're a people leader by title, leveraging what others have to fully offer is really the epitome of leadership. So as you think about the great work you did, consider, how did you bring the right people together to generate the right ideas? How did you harness different forms of expertise? Like somebody's great at execution, somebody else at communication, maybe someone else at analytics. in order to deliver an outcome bigger than you could have delivered on your own? How did you support or encourage the creativity of those around you to achieve those results? The more you can highlight your readiness for leadership, the more love your organization will show you come year end. And finally, let that resilience shine. The only thing companies want more than future leaders is resilient future leaders. Because change is everything and uncertainty is here to stay. And your ability to test, fail, learn, and roll with the punches is, everything right now. So as you reflect on the path that you took to achieve that outcome, don't gloss over the bumps and uglies. Really highlight the spots where you tripped up or fell down or hit a wall, and then describe what you learned and how that insight fueled you forward. Maybe your first 2 pitches for that conference organizer were rejected, but you reached out to the event planner, you found out what content they really needed, and you delivered a final pitch they couldn't refuse. Maybe you tested that client engagement strategy with a handful of very small clients, and you analyzed their responses, good and bad. Maybe you tested that client engagement strategy with a handful of very small clients, and you tested their responses, good and bad, to your tweaks. And you used those findings to polish your ultimate approach, which worked with bigger clients. Remember, companies want to know and reward and celebrate those who will fight their way to a win, no matter what comes their way. So now it's time for you to reflect. What do you deserve to be celebrated for this year? And how can you craft a story that sets you up for that big win? Join me next week for another great episode. Until then, visit my website at leadabovenoise.com if your organization is looking to dial up its employee experience. You can follow Modern Mentor on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow me on the Modern Mentor podcast page on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for listening and have a successful week. Modern Mentor is a quick and dirty tips podcast. It's audio engineered by Dan Firabend with script editing by Adam Cecil. Our podcast and advertising operations specialist is Morgan Christensen. Our digital operations specialist is Holly Hutchings. Our marketing and publicity assistant is Davina Tomlin. And our intern is Cameron Lacey.